Shadow Binders is back in stock on shopclownfish.com. That's shopclownfish.com. And now on with the show. Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about manga sales again.
Oh boy.
Because manga sales have hit an all-time high, passing the 2007 peak. That's awesome.
That is good. I'm sorry, I was just thinking that would be a good time to promote our book.
Yeah.
It's not manga, but
It's not manga.
But it is a graphic novel.
It is. Shadow Binders, I'm going to put a little commercial at the beginning of this video. Go out to shopclownfish.com and you can pick up a couple copies of the Shadow Binders hardcover if you missed the campaign.
I saw an opportunity, so I took it.
There you go. So manga's doing really, really well, as the direct market is not.
We were in Walmart yesterday, and I was in the book section, and it was a bigger Walmart than our one locally, and they had all kinds of books there, and they were sold out that were manga, including Demon Slayer Volume 2.
They did. Yeah, Demon Slayer was completely sold out. So it's good to see this.
It's even in Walmart now.
So kids want comics, they just don't want what the mainstream is offering them, at least the direct market. I mean, I can't say that manga is not mainstream because it's totally blowing up.
It's mainstream in other places. It's just that they don't call it mainstream here because people want to have that on lock. So
yeah, so we're going to talk about this, of course. MPD book scan again. Manga dominates the graphic novel sales chart.
No, that's not true. It depends, because I love it. It's either a case of, oh no, American comics are fine and manga's not impacting us, or we're gonna say manga counts when we want to count their numbers.
Oh, that'll be the next thing. It'll be like, oh my God, comic sales are an all-time high since 2007.
Right. Now it's both ways.
Go Team Comics! Yay! Yeah, no, not true. So we're going to talk about that before we get into it any further. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We're over 206,000 subs.
Woo! I think we're close to 207,
Are we? I think we're creeping up on it. So thank you so much for the support. Yeah, ICV2 put this out, saying that manga sales hit an all-time high in 2020, and even Anime News Network picked up on it. They're like, wow, this is kind of crazy, because 2007 was, of course, the age of Tokyo Pop. Mm-hmm. And there was tons and tons of manga available of varying quality, I guess.
Think it's weird that they're just now covering it on Anime News Network. I mean, you think that would be something they would have covered a while ago.
Yeah, they're just like, wow, why?
A little slow there, guys.
A little bit. So yeah, according to ICV2, the North American manga market was under 250 million in 2020. The overall North American comic market reached a new high of 1.28 billion in 2020. So still a big chunk of that is manga, and a lot of it's crowdfunding too.
Mm-hmm. And then, just Demon Slayer itself pretty much kicked American comics ass.
Oh yeah. In Japan, like it's so weird because Japan is so much smaller than the US, and everybody reads comics over there. Mm-hmm. Like, people just don't read comics over here like they used to. And if they do, though, it's manga. For sure. They're not reading the floppies. I mean, the DC floppy, the $5 books that I thought would actually be a pretty big hit, they're just kind of collecting dust at Walmart.
Well, no, it's funny because when I was substitute teaching and I was at the high school all the time for art and stuff, the kids, when they'd have activity period or whatever, they'd have downtime, they were going to Webtoons and sites like that and reading web comics. Or they had the Shonen Jump, where they had the subscription. But that's what I saw these kids reading. If they weren't doing that, they were playing tabletop games in activity period.
Speaking of which, we saw this too on ICV2. They're cashing in on Dungeons and Dragons. They're doing a middle grade graphic novel.
Of course they are.
By Molly Ostertag, who is the woman who wrote the article about the coded queerness, I guess, of hobbits.
Yes.
And is also married to Noelle Stevenson. She was a showrunner. So there's that. But yeah, I think more kids are going to read manga. So let's talk about that.
You know what's going to happen, though? It's not going to sell well. Like, we keep seeing it with these publishers that pick these books for kids, and they don't sell well, and then it's because everybody else's fault.
They always try to make, I noticed that the kids' graphic novels, they always try to make them childish. Like, it's a lot of people who don't have kids, and we know this for a fact. And look, we're not throwing shade at people who don't have kids, but there are a lot of people who don't have
Or
kids.
don't work with kids.
Clearly don't work with kids writing kids graphic novels, and it shows because a lot of it's like, fart jokes and poopy caca jokes and
Well, kids do find that funny sometimes, but it does seem like
not at
they
13.
they don't really understand, kids, and it's sometimes it's very obvious. Anyway,
so let's talk about manga because that's much more interesting. ICV2 manga sales in North America hit all-time high in 2020. Sales of print manga hit an all-time high in 2020, and we know that the last month's NPD book scan was, again, it was all manga. It was all manga for the adult graphic novels anyway. So the 2020 growth featured strong sales of backlist, including box sets, driven by increased streaming of anime during COVID. And we're gonna talk about that too, because anime is very popular with the kids.
yeah, I sent this over earlier.
Kids.
Surprise! It's really popular with Gen X too. So
Yeah, it is. The new high in manga sales comes after a steep decline between 2008 and 2012 off of the 2007 peak and a long recovery until this year. Yeah, basically there was a lot of subpar manga and Amera manga being pushed out, and it's not all Tokyo Pop's fault. Plus we had the recession and, booksellers went out of business. A lot of publishers got stuck with the bill, but you can still find a lot of that manga from that era in discount bookstores today.
Yeah, you can.
10 years later, you can still find this stuff.
$1 or $2 a book. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was kind of surprised to see it come back as much as it did. So the big declines came in the wake of the global financial crisis, the bankruptcy of Borders. Borders, I guess, stuck Tokyo Pop with like millions of dollars.
Yeah, I think that the Borders incident is what had a lot to do with the Tokyo Pop issue.
They said they were a big supporter of manga. They said there was a decline in anime on television as cable channel gatekeepers pivoted toward content in which they had an ownership stake. Steven Universe.
Yeah, I would say Adventure Time even before that.
Yeah, and petering out of a huge wave of backlist, which had brought decades of Japanese material to North America. Now they're cranking out so much manga that they're running out. They're running out of places to print it. I've heard that, printers are booked months and months and months in advance. And, some manga collectors are telling people, like, if you want Demon Slayer, when you see it on the stands, you better buy it.
Or I have to find it again, but we had shared a link before where they were letting you pre-order the entire series.
Oh, yeah, on Amazon, they're going to do a box set.
Yeah, they're doing a box set, so you can probably go to Amazon and find it, but they were letting people pre-order the entire series of Demon Slayer ahead of time. I think it's October release or something like that.
So they said now that there's a dedicated billion-dollar anime streaming powerhouse providing a permanent pipeline from Japan to America.
That's fast.
Yeah, right. Funimation gets Crunchyroll. It seems unlikely that anime will ever again experience drops in visibility like those in the late 2000s, unless they screw it up, which is very, very possible that they screw it up and they start to pander to political correctness.
I'm taking money. I'm taking bets. I'll just say taking money because it's going to probably be right that the HarperCollins thing's going to be exactly what you think it was going to be.
Oh, yeah, I have no doubt. So, yeah, this is pretty exciting. And this goes along with anime. And there is an uptick. And those two things, manga and anime, go hand in hand, not just because most anime is based off of manga, but the anime is actually a commercial for manga books in Japan. That's how it works. It's like, we're going to do a show. You're going to want to find out what happens. You're going to go buy the books.
Well, it's interesting about this poll. I didn't actually look at the poll, but it's popular with Gen Z. Well, that's not surprising because the parents of Gen Z probably watched like Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball. Like, okay, our kids are Gen Z, right? I'm Gen X. Then there's the millennial in between. Our kids grew up watching anime. Mom's been watching anime. Dad's been watching anime since they were like born. We have a drawer full of it. I mean, when Pinky Boo was little, she used to ask for Commoner's Ramen because we watched Oregon High School Host Club. I mean, they grew up watching this. That and 80s cartoons. They used to watch Gem all the time. It's that. But of course, Gen Z is watching it because their parents probably are the ones that were watching it too. But of course, they don't put that on there.
Pinky Boo, I remember when she was a baby, she would get so excited. I'd put Saber Marionette J.
Oh yeah, yeah.
She loved the theme song. For some reason, Saber Marionette J, she loved it. It would start and she would start kind of bouncing. She'd start booping.
That's why we call her Boos, because she used to boop. She's
She used to boop.
booping, she's booping, so we shortened it to Boo. Well, when we used to have to sit up with her at night, and hold on to, and hold her because she wouldn't go to sleep unless she held her. And we took shifts, and I used to watch Inuyasha. That's where I saw Inuyasha the first time and loved Inuyasha. I was watching it while I was trying to get Pinky Boo to go to bed. So, I mean, they grew up with it.
So this is coming from Crunchyroll's head of global partnerships and content strategy.
They make up, head of this, head of that, head of the head of the head.
The data spoke for itself. It was there. The research executive revealed that a recent survey concluded only 6% of respondents in Gen Z had never heard of anime. That's like the general population.
But I wouldn't expect otherwise. Like I said, when I was out there subs teaching and stuff, kids were like reading manga, they were reading webtoons, they were reading, things like that. They were talking about animes, talking about tabletops, stuff like that. This does not surprise me in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. I mean, this is crazy. That it's this popular now, because when we were kids, it was hard to find. Like, we were watching anime and we didn't even know we were watching anime when we were kids, and it was often called Japanimation back then. But like Robotech and Battle of the Planets and even Transformers was even animated in Japan, but we didn't know necessarily where it came from, that it was altered so much, Voltron and all that. And then in the late 80s and early 90s, getting it was really hard. Like, Blockbuster Video had some, but if you wanted anime, you had to go buy it. And it
wasn't cheap.
Crazy expensive. I mean, I remember the very first anime I bought was Appleseed, the OVA, $45 in like 1992 money.
I wouldn't have paid that.
I'm like, well, this isn't a series, so it's a one and done, because to buy a series, I didn't have the money to buy a whole series back then. So it's like, well, I can buy one tape, and...
this was funny. Back when I was teaching at the one time full-time for a year, I filled in for somebody. So before I married Neon here, that's when they were running the Sailor Moon, Super...
Was it Super S?
It wasn't. Well, they ran that too, but it was Sailor Moon. I think it was this S. Anyway, I remember coming home from work and then being like, okay, it's time to watch Sailor Moon. And then when I go to school, there would be kids in the higher grades that would be talking about watching Sailor Moon. And I didn't like, I went home and watched it too. But
There you go. They were cousins.
That's right. Yeah.
Really,
cousins. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, kids today, they don't know how good they have it. It was really, really hard to find this stuff. And even manga, Dark Horse was the first company I can remember that brought the manga out as it was in Japan, the smaller black and white books. But, most places that published manga back then, they actually would publish it as like a regular comic book. They would break it up and they'd color it, and they would publish it as like a regular comic book because they didn't think that the manga format was going to work. And I remember the first time I saw the Dark Horse manga, I think it was like Star Wars. And they used to run it backwards, like they would flip it for American audiences.
So it looked like a book that we're used
to. Right,
okay.
So you could read it, left to right rather than right to left. And they would tell you in the beginning, it's like, well, this book's been flipped. It's not that you care anyway. But it was so weird because like you'd see Luca's hand cut off and it was the other hand.
I do remember that. It was flipped. Yeah, I remember that. I remember it saying that they flipped it.
And then Tokyo Pop, for the first couple of years, I remember they had the warning in the book, like, you have to read this book backwards. What?
Well, I told you when we had the one book fair from Scholastic Book Fair, I used to run them for the elementary schools. And the people that were there were like, I come in and they're like, oh, she'll know, ask her, she'll know. We think we got misprinted books. They're backwards. And I had to sit there and explain to them, no, that's the way they're supposed to be. And I had to show them why and explain to them why, because they knew I'd know. And they're like, there she is, go ask her. I think we got all these misprints. And I'm like, no, that's the way it's supposed to be.
So just to show you the mindset here, because this guy is an executive doing this thing.
Hey there, fellow kids.
Exactly. Doing it for Crunchyroll. And with these figures in mind, Boodle, his name is Boodle, was the first to say that the majority interest paves an interesting road for animes spread globally as Gen Z ages. It encompasses almost the entirety of the media landscape within a singular art form. People use anime beyond the screen to signpost things about their own personalities. The youngsters know what we're doing and they're into it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Now they're not.
Now they're not. Now you just
You just made it less cool. Way to go.
killed off the entire industry. But no, look, just another example of how Japanese pop culture is destroying what the West has to offer. The fact that our kids are picking, entertainment for Japanese kids over what Western audiences are, or what Western producers are giving them, month after month.
And they keep trying to deny it and say, oh, it's misleading because of this or that. But then they turn around and claim it when they want to. But no, they're kicking your ass, and I'm sorry if you don't like it. It doesn't make it less true because you don't like it. Not liking something does not make it untrue.
Yeah, here we go again. June 2021, a diverse list including some classics and new volumes, all manga. Third or fourth month in a row. Month in a row. It's here to stay for now. I worry that we're going to go down this road again. But
I think if it comes down that these American companies start trying to dictate everything and telling Japan how they should and shouldn't do things, Japan's going to be like, screw you. And I can't say I blame them, because the reason that people are buying the books is because they want those kinds of stories, those kinds of characters. And let's face it, we all see what they're doing to the American market.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Japan could tell the same kinds of stories with the same kinds of characters and do it well.
That's right. They have been for decades.
Mm-hmm.
Decades.
They were diverse before you thought diversity was a cool thing. Cousins.
Somebody sent me a link, back channel on Twitter, and they were talking about how the Japanese view the Western comic book market, and they call them like the politically correct Yakuza. Like the woke mafia.
Well,
I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, oh my God, that's very, very accurate.
It is very accurate. Don't listen to them.
Don't listen to them. And
keep doing your thing, Japan. You're doing well.
Honestly, what they need to do is cut out the middlemen. I think a lot of cases, because that's where the translational errors start to.
Oh, when they want to change things for their agendas. Yeah, just hire your own translators and put it out yourself.
There you go. All right, so we're gonna wrap this one up.
Yep.
All right, so please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.